So it's the coming up to sort of spring, summertime, and I wanted to go through a few pairs of sneakers that I think are probably good for the spring, summertime, and more models that are, I suppose, newer and also in trend at the moment, and a couple that probably aren't so much in trend now, but still, a valid piece of footwear. So I'll start off with a couple of foam sneakers that I have, and the first one up is obviously the Foam Runner. This is a pair that I've been wearing quite a bit, that you can sort of see. Obviously last year they were worn a lot, especially more in the dry sort of spring, summer weather. These are perfect for summertime, but also pretty good for spring as well. It just depends on the day really. Anything sort of above the sort of 16-17 degrees, I think these are good to get on feet, and especially when they're dry as well, so outside. So during the springtime, you do get a lot of rain and things of that nature, but if you can find sort of dry spells where it's more of a sort of hot sunny day, then these are sort of perfect. And in line with that, if you don't kind of fancy the Foam Runners, and they are kind of going out of style now, I suppose, if you're looking at it from a fashion perspective, but I still wear mine and I'm comfortable sort of wearing mine, and I like the way they feel on feet as well, because they're slightly more firmer. But if you weren't, then the Rejuvenate 8 is a good one, and because this has the Reactx foam in there, it feels quite sort of soft and squishy, so you can sort of probably see that here. It's kind of gives you that bit of bounce back, and it feels nice on foot. I think the only thing for me is the materials on this, especially on the upper, are slightly more of a cheaper quality, similar to maybe a Crocs, more on the sort of rubbery side, and I feel like they're not as nice as what the Foam Runners are made out of in terms of material, because they have some of them have like algae materials in, like the Yeezy Foam Runners, but it's still a nice pair, don't get me wrong. And I really like the outsole being tacky and very sort of grippy compared to say the Foam Runner. So if you're looking for like a recovery shoe or something for the spring, summertime, this is a good bet as well. And I also like the fact that it's got breathable holes in there as well, so similar to the Foam Runner. I think the only thing with these ones is they look a bit more on the sporty side because of the Nike swoosh, and I'm generally not a fan of like the top down view personally, but other than that, it's still a cool piece of foam footwear from Nike, and their best one so far that they've released. They've had a few attempts, and this one I think is probably the best one that they've had, and that's probably the reason why it's been popular. And more sort of rave reviews on this one as well. I've been wearing these a lot. I've been wearing them during the autumn winter time as well, to tell the truth, and this is a pair that I've worn, so you can sort of see. But what I will say is I actually still really like wearing these, even sort of during the springtime. So if you're looking for something like a Jordan 4 but on the sort of lower cut, then this is perfect. I actually like the way these look on feet, and in all honesty, when I wear them, I see people turning their heads. So it's a good shoe to have, I think. And I like the the Nigel Sylvester one, but I think also some of the colorways that you see on the GR versions are very nice as well. So it's not one to be missed. I know like a lot of people are kind of turning their nose up at this particular silhouette, but I think the price that they kind of come in at, and also the GR versions being on sale, you can pick them up for good prices, and I also feel very comfortable for not to say that they're going to be amazing comfort. It's not like soft foam or anything of that sort, but it is on the firmer side. But I feel like they're easier to wear than the Jordan 4 because they have a slightly different, I suppose, tooling. I'm not sure if it's got an air unit on the front, for example, but it just feels a bit nicer to wear, and slightly sort of lighter as well, and they don't feel as firm on foot. And I felt like I can wear these longer during the day, more so than a standard sort of Jordan 4. And then also in line with Jordan brand, I try not to go for the standard sort of Jordans that are coming out, the main sort of 1 to 4 retro silhouettes, and focusing on some of the newer stuff. And I think this one has been very popular. Obviously this is the Who Decides War version of the Jordan Flight Court, but it's just a really nice shoe. It's got kind of nods from the Jordan 5, especially like this perspective here, and also the front area, the toe box, gives me that sort of Jordan 5 vibe. But in all honesty, I think even some of the colorways that are coming out now, just for the general release Flight Courts, are really nice. Some of them are, again, on sale. You can pick them up as low as £80, which is probably about $90. And they're just really cool to wear and just really easy. Again, a lot of people are wearing low cuts at the moment, and this is no different. And especially when you come to sort of spring, summertime, it's a nice one to have. I think with this particular collab, I think my only thing with these is obviously this material inside. Obviously no one's going to see that, but that kind of sort of makes it a bit more on the, I suppose, feminine side. But if you know how to sort of dress these and, you know, wearing them with jeans, you're not going to see that anyway. So, but, you know, it's a very nice shoe, and I like the embroidery on this, but I also like some of the GR colorways that are coming out. And in all honesty, if I see a nice GR colorway, I'm kind of happy to pick them up on sale. And something which is, I kind of seen these go on sale quite a bit, and I'm putting it out there because of the football trend, and especially if you're a guy. I've like reviewed the Total 90, which I didn't hang on to, but I think this one is probably the one that is the most easiest to wear from a men's perspective, because of the fact that the toe box is quite sort of rounded and, you know, not feminine, I suppose, and more sort of masculine. But also like the fact that it's got breathability as well, especially on this part here. Well, it's not like an all-over leather sneaker, and the leather quality is actually quite nice. It's quite sort of soft to the touch. I wouldn't say it's amazing leather, but, you know, in general terms of what you're getting, you know, it's a good shoe. And the fact that it's got sort of Cushlon midsole tech in there as well. It's more on the sort of firmer side, but it still feels nice on foot, and, you know, better than some of the other slim silhouettes that you get. So yeah, as a football, you know, trend shoe, whatever you want to call it, there's plenty of like Adidas options out there, but I think this one is a really good one, especially if you can pick it up on sale. This one I think I picked up for like £44, and they retail I think for around about £90. And then next up, probably one that's slightly an outlier. This is obviously marketed as a women's shoe, and I suppose it does look more like that, but it also looks more like the soccer shoes from Adidas and also from Nike, which have a more sort of pointed toe, and obviously that's to play football or soccer in, and you need that to help you sort of curl the ball, you know, that kind of thing. So for me, I think this one looks really cool, the Adidas Taekwondo. I think it's just a weird, cool looking silhouette, and quite similar to the Adidas Samba and also maybe the Gazelle as well. But as you can sort of see, it's got this stitched toe box. It's Taekwondo, so obviously it's made for like martial arts back in the day, or inspired by martial arts. And I think it's you know, a really cool piece of footwear, and I think, you know, it's one that's going to be still sort of popular. I picked up this particular pair for £38, which is really cheap, and I think they retail for around 80, and the leather quality is really nice, and then the insole as well is made of leather as well, so it's quite, you know, in that respect it's quite premium. So not going to be the most grippiest of things, and as you can sort of see, sort of slimmer silhouette, but I think, you know, you can get away with these, you know, as a guy. I think they're probably more easier to wear than, say, the Total 93 from Nike. And then also just a nod to Adidas sort of slim silhouettes in general. There's plenty out there. This is obviously a collab version, and you know, it's made up of the Gazelle from Bad Bunny, and this one's also a collaboration with Lionel Messi. However, any of these types of shoes from Adidas, whether it's like the Tokyo, the Japan, you know, the Gazelle Handball Specials, or, you know, whatever, there's a bunch of different ones that you can sort of wear and are sort of in trend at the moment, and there's, you know, a bunch of different Nike and Puma sneakers that you can also buy, which are all sort of low profile. And speaking of low profile sneakers, I also think the Puma Speedcat deserve to be on there. I bought these, you know, I got them on sale for like, I think it was £57, which was very cheap, and obviously they're in trend at the moment and very popular. And all these sort of Puma sneakers that I've bought, you know, over time and sort of reviewed, not that many, but this one is one of the ones that I've sort of kept onto and held onto, and I actually just like the way it looks. And in all honesty, I'd probably use them more for driving because they're inspired by like motorsports, but I think they would work well as a driving sneaker because of the back, you know, especially if you're going sort of long distance, that kind of sits, you know, on the pedals. So for me, it's like one of those ones where I think it looks sleek, looks cool as well, and I like the little Puma on the front as well. Just gives that sort of Nike swoosh type deal going on, which I think is really cool. And yeah, just like I said, they're in trend at the moment. A lot of different colorways, especially on the Puma website at the moment. They've stocked a whole bunch of different colors, and I even like the brown colorway. So yeah, definitely worth grabbing if you like your low profile silhouettes. And then another sneaker from Nike, the Spiridon, seems to be popular at the moment. This is probably a good sneaker for the summertime, springtime. And again, it's made up of sort of mesh materials. Obviously, you know, there's other sort of staples from Nike, such as the Air Max, Air Max 1, Air Max Plus, Air Max 90, and I can sort of go on. But the Spiridon came out recently, and I wouldn't say they're like massively popular, but they're still quite sort of trendy. This one's a Fragment collab that I managed to pick up. And initially when I sort of saw these, I thought, what's the big deal? But the more I kind of sort of see them, and the more I look at them, they're just quite sort of understated and clean. And in the sort of work environment, especially for me, I need like footwear that's kind of more understated and just sort of easy to wear and not like bright colors. And, you know, that I'll can go on the radar, and you know, I won't get kind of slapped on the wrist for. But yeah, this is another cool one, quite comfortable on foot as well. And lastly, there's a trend with like sneaker shoes, and I think this one's a good one. The 1906L, probably the best of the lot in terms of the, you know, like the shoe trend that's going on at the moment, sneaker shoe trend. And I just think they look really cool. I always sort of like this midsole outsole tooling from the 1906 or R and the 2002 R and the 860 V2s. And the fact that they put like a shoe like structure over the top is really cool, and giving sort of nods to the 1906 R in general with like the leather overlays. It just makes it sort of unique, and again, very sort of sneaker like, but at the same time paying homage to the shoe trend. And because they're sort of loafers, are easy to sort of slip on and off. I think my only sort of issue with this one being an all leather one is you kind of have to be a bit careful with the sizing. I went, you know, true to size for me. The only thing that I feel is this strap being quite sort of pressure and sort of locking down and quite sort of tight on my foot. But you know, obviously I've got like more of a wide foot, and I think if you've got narrow foot, you're probably not going to experience that. If I went a half size up, I feel like they'll be too big and quite sort of slipping off my foot. So for me, I'm going to probably have to just sort of bear with the tightness and try and see if they loosen up, which I've been told they do, especially with the leather being sort of soft and nice. So hopefully that gives you a few options to sort of look at and choose from.